Hello, hello, hello. We are going to be starting this cosplay during COVID panel in a couple minutes. I say a couple minutes, probably as soon as the other two panelists turn on their cameras and their mics and join the stage. So I'm going to give them a moment to make that happen. Hopefully, make that happen. Let me see. All right, so okay, there was a knock. Oh, thank you, Allison. We will not be able to see the audience, unfortunately. But what I would like to have happen is for if you do have questions, you do have the option of raising your hand, and if possible, we would like to bring you to the stage when that happens. Okay, let's see. I see Tranquil Ashes is here, and I'm going to ask Dominique, could you bring her to the stage? I'm not sure why she didn't automatically come onto the stage, but and Chana also would need to be. You don't see the okay. This is interesting. We do not see the option to turn on your camera. It should be at the bottom of the screen, below where you see me. It does look like you guys are in the audience. Let's see if we can change that. Because the goal is for you to be here with me on the stage. Dominique, if that is.
Hey.
Were the commands at the bottom? Or did someone have to pull you in?
Yeah, I got it now. It's there. So that's I got a little invitation. So Tranquil Ashes should hopefully be here soon too.
Kent, you're okay. You're cosplaying as Genesis from Tuskegee Airs. That's awesome. Have you visited their booth to show them that you're dressing up as one of their characters? You probably already have because people love that. Their table stays full though. Stays full.
Mostly.
Okay. Yay! That's all Wade. I don't know why I do this. I think I saw a little kid do it, and I was like, this makes more sense than this to me. So welcome to Cosplaying During COVID. You were here with me, TaLynn, and with Tranquil Ashes and CC The Geek, who's actually going by her government name out here right now.
Lord, I know. What have I done?
And I want everybody to take a moment to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. So we'll start with you, CC.
Okay. Wasn't expecting that. All right. So some call me CC The Geek. Some know me as Chana Lawson. I am a cosplayer. I am an activist, more or less, I guess. And I am the founder and CEO of HBCU Con. It is my honor and privilege to be here. I don't really know what more to say other than that, just elevator speech wise, but looking forward to talking further about the subject at hand. And I always love being on panels with you, TaLynn. You're so good at moderating them, and having Tranquil Ashes is just like that added touch that I'm really looking forward to.
Okay, Tranquil Ashes.
Let's see. Well, Tranquil Ashes is my name or my moniker. I am a makeup artist, an FX artist, a body painter, a traveler, and as soon as this COVID is over, I hope to do that more. A cosplayer, of course. I dabble in a little bit of everything. I've had the privilege of knowing these two ladies for a couple of years now, but I've never actually had a panel. So I'm glad to be here. And yep, that's my elevator speech.
I don't have an elevator speech. I'm just TaLynn Kel. I have my own website. I'm an essayist. I'm a cosplayer. I am very much focused on a lot of the intersectional issues that happen as cosplayers that we didn't really think about, because a lot of times, as with everything in America, there is this focus on, oh, we care about everyone and we're all the same and everything is equal. And it's like, yeah, no, that's not really how this operates. So, let's keep it real about that. And so this and I had to say this because I've been kind of watching the convention scene since COVID rolled out, as every cosplayer has, and we've been like, what's going to happen? What happened to these spaces? Are we ever going to be in these spaces again? And I haven't participated in a lot of the online events that have rolled out since, because I have not really thought they were fun. This one, I kind of just said, let's just try it. I am actually really enjoying this platform. I'm like, it's very interactive. It's very social. I'm really shocked at how much I'm enjoying this. So, I mean, I came on yesterday just to kind of check it out, and I thought I'd be gone in 30 minutes. And I was there the whole rest of the day. So, but I want to start by asking you guys, like, why did you cosplay? Why did you start cosplaying in the first place? What attracted you to it? I'll start with Tranquil Ashes. We'll go that
I
way.
want Tranquil to go first because she's been cosplaying longer than me.
Well, like I say with most things, everything for me, for the most part, started in Japan. But I came back home, and after, dabbling in makeup for a little while, I actually saw Yaya Han cosplay something from Game of Thrones. And those who don't know me, I am a extreme Game of Thrones fanatic, both books and TV show. Well, seasons 1 through 6. But I was seeing that and I was like, wait a minute. I could probably do this too. And I had been going to conventions for a while at that point, but I had never really, considered cosplaying like that. And I already had done the makeup side. So I was like, well, let's see if I can make something. And then once I started, it was definitely a hook, line, and sinker for me. And it's definitely a confidence booster, or at least even a bigger one. So that's kind of what attracted me to it. It was already kind of in line with the things that I was working on. And I just love fandom, and it was another way to be a part of fandom.
So I wanna come back to what you just said about how you were already coming to conventions, but you weren't cosplaying. What brought you into conventions in the first place?
I've been going to conventions since I was like a baby. Very, 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 very young. A friend of mine in middle school was like, oh, there's these conventions that have anime. And at the time, it was extremely difficult to get anime. You didn't have like Crunchyroll or, Netflix or anything that just has like a whole library of anime for you to pick. So the only way you got to do it, and outside of Toonami, was go to conventions. And I kind of met my people there, all into anime, fantasy, people who dressed up, and I was just taking pictures at that time. But it was comfortable, and I finally was at a place where everyone was there because they were into the same things I was into.
Okay. Now, CC, what brought you into cosplay?
Okay, well, I think the concept of it was first introduced to me in high school, where a friend of mine named Emily, she would go to conventions, and she was very much like Anita, where she was well-traveled, lived in different parts of the world throughout her life and stuff. And she was the one who planted the seed of what conventions looked like, probably a little bit too well, because she described the nightlife and the parties, and I was like, maybe this is a little too grown and sexy for me right now. But and it sounded really intense, but I was like, I kind of want to do this though. And then when I was living with my best friend Erin after college, we got introduced to this show on Sci-Fi called Heroes of Cosplay. And like Yaya Han seems to be this great equalizer because, you know, she was one of the main characters, if you will, on the show, or main cosplayers who they documented and followed. And I just fell in love with her, me and my best friend. And we had this pipe dream, like one day we're going to be cool cosplayers and we're going to dress up just like them. And it came full circle in 2015 when I just decided that I was going to do it. And my friend Emily, she went with me and my good friend Bryant and Tracy to Baltimore Comic-Con. And I went to a pop-up shop and got actually Spirit Halloween and got a Black Widow costume. And it was interesting because I just noticed walking throughout the convention that people would ask to take my picture. And I was like, I didn't think much of it. I'm like, this is just a regular, like, I didn't put any work into this like I could have, like I felt like I could have. And but most of the people who were asking to take my picture looked like us. So I felt that there was something to it, and I really enjoyed it. I always enjoyed the culture. I've always enjoyed anime and comics and stuff. So it just really gave me that opportunity to express myself and embody that superhero that I always, you know, wanted to be, I guess.
That's hilarious. My first this was actually Dark Phoenix was my first cosplay. Not like this though. I was ugly. It was terrible. No, it was very bad. But it was also indicative of what the time was at that, you know, at that point. Finding
Yeah.
plus size clothing, getting outfits was very different. I literally took a burgundy velour jumpsuit and made a glitter phoenix on the chest because I couldn't find things like my size in that color. There just wasn't a lot out there. Unless, I mean, so, and for me, I was not into the whole con thing. I would never have considered myself a geek. Yeah, I watched Star Trek, whatever. I mean, that you know what I mean? Like, it was whatever. I wasn't, you know, well versed in everything that went on in the universe, and I wasn't a super fan, but I liked the show. But somebody said you need to check out Dragon Con, and they took me, and all we did was like hang out outside, and there were tons of people in costume, and I was like, you know what? You can just dress up and just walk around down here. You can dress up and just be in the street. We are coming to this next year. We are so doing this. And we did. I made my friends come with me. They were not interested, but they liked the energy of putting together an outfit and then trying to have a look. And so, and my friend went hard. She came in as Mystique. She body painted herself with liquid latex in 2006. She learned some horrible lessons about painting yourself with liquid latex.
No,
and it's hot. It's hot that time of year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was. Oh, so what would happen was the sweat would like form and collect underneath of the latex. And so you get these sweat bubbles that you could pop and they would come out. It was the grossest thing I ever seen at that time. I was like, this is disgusting. And then when she pulled it off, she had not shaved her body. So when she pulled it off,
oh no.
Yeah, it was.
Oh no.
We learned a lot that year.
Poor baby.
No.
But we're talking again, this is like 15 years ago. So
Right.
Yeah.
it was a totally different game. We were experimenting with stuff that now people can find tutorials on YouTube, which YouTube wasn't even really a thing at that time. So you were just trying it and seeing what happened.
Right.
But so for a lot of people, like when I started cosplaying, I felt like I found my people. I started going to conventions and I was like, I feel like this is my crowd. And all I wanted to do was cosplay. I didn't go to any panels. I think I didn't go to my first panel until 10 years after I'd been going to con. So like for me, that was not the draw at all.
Right.
But but for me, it was the community. And now that we have this pandemic and we don't have that option of, I'm going to dress up and go hang out with folks and, you know, socialize in my natural state, you know, in cosplay, my natural state. So how is it affecting you? Like, are you still cosplaying during this pandemic? Are you still trying to find opportunities to cosplay now that you don't have that in-person aspect?
I mean, for sure. I think because I already do social media in general. I was doing closets and makeup looks just to post anyway. But now, it's kind of picked up a bit because there isn't anywhere to go, unfortunately, at the moment. But the cool thing is that you can, cosplay from the waist up and take your pictures, and you can have pajama pants and like socks on when you're taking your pictures, and no one will know the difference. I will say initially it kind of slowed me down because cons are a high. Like it's a very
Mhm.
real adrenaline rush. And most of the time, that's the time when people get to see folks that they haven't seen in a year or two or three or however many months it's been since the last convention they were at. And also, it's the opportunity to see people from like different parts of the US or even the world, because depending on the convention, you draw that type of, crowd. And my first convention was Otakon, so I'm used to big conventions. So the bigger the better for me.
We had a couple people who that was their first convention in the chat, actually. I've
Right.
never been. I feel like I'm not in that demographic. Um, so CC, how about you?
I guess my answer would be yes and no. Quite honestly, most of my time and energy and resources have been going towards event planning and operations for HBCU Con. And we have our panel coming up on Wednesday, another one in March for Women's History Month, also on the 24th. And then our main event is in April. So just trying to, and I'm learning a lot just from being on platforms like this. And I was a guest speaker at the Subsume Summit with Dedra and Sneed. So that was really cool. But and I did manage to crank out a couple of good cosplays, mostly Maya Nux on the Moon, thanks to Tranquil Ashes and her body paint skills on that. And then I did a couple of I cannot talk today. I did a couple of closet cosplays, including Super Mario, and I think that was it. Yeah. Oh no, in my Negamoon. I'm sorry. I did a
Yes,
Negamoon group, so that was cute.
Mhm.
I love that. That was really fun.
I'm finding, and it's very strange. Like I've seen conventions try the online ones this past year, try to do something where submit pictures, cosplay pictures, or there was one where I think they had kind of a virtual cosplay contest. I didn't actually go to that, but I think they did try to do something where people would be on camera, kind of like this, but I don't know what the mechanics were behind it. And it just didn't seem fun. It didn't seem like a cool thing, at least for me. Because for me, so much of this is being around people, but also there's the creative aspect. I'm a problem solver by nature, and granted, with cosplay, you making your own problems.
So
You really do. You sit back and say, that looks ridiculous. I wonder how, if I could make that in real life, what kind of materials would I need? And I like using trash. I don't like actually using what you're supposed to use. So I don't go to tutorials. I don't watch anybody's videos on how to do stuff. I just sit there and look at it and say, I got some clay. We're going to see what happens. And it doesn't happen. Sometimes it does. So I had to kind of move into that space of being more interested in crafting the look. And in fact, one of the questions that we have in the chat from Aziza Spinks, who is one of the vendors here, she's a writer. She wants to know, what's the most amount of time you've committed to creating a look? And my answer is honestly years. Where there are years. It's because sometimes getting the materials or finding the pieces that are going to work for it, they don't exist yet, and then they do, and you can get it, and you're like, oh yeah, I can now work on that. So I've had looks that I've been working on for 2 or 3 years, not consistently, but years. And then I have looks where I had one skirt that I hand painted it. It took 3 months, which was ridiculous for one part of the costume. But so how about you guys? What's the longest time you've committed to working on a cosplay? Like during when we were having Dragon Con, I would give myself 7 months to kind of build it because of whatever, if I had something set in stone. But there are other ones, like I said, I've put them off for years. So I had one piece that I needed. So, like, how does that work for you?
Well, the hardest part for me, I'll say, because I'm like, Nita's probably like, I've had to spend months and years on some of your builds and stuff. The hardest part for me in particular was when I organized group projects. That was when it was really the hardest thing, because then it was like I wasn't just putting together my stuff, but I was also most of the group projects that I've done, they're not really deep into the culture the same way that I am. So in order to give them like incentive to participate, I would often do the legwork in terms of like putting things together while also giving them the creative freedom to make it their own, right? But then there's also money to be spent, and things need to be coordinated with photographers and makeup artists and all that jazz. And I think the longest it took me was probably close to a year with the Sailor Moon shoot that I did, the sorority one. So that was probably the one, just the planning and the coordination and all that.
Tranquil Ashes?
Well, there have been cosplays that I've wanted to do for years, and I just haven't, for one reason or another, whether it be I wanted to be present at a specific convention, or sometimes weather has a lot to do with it, because sometimes certain cosplays don't work well in the winter / work well in the summer. Yeah, I'm a horrible example of planning and doing things nice and ordered. I am a procrastinator through and through, and
You're creative.
yeah,
Creativity is not linear. Like, that's the hardest part
yeah,
for everyone to understand. Creativity is not linear. So when you get that idea, you might not have the resources at the moment, but you're kind of planning that in the back of your head and
yeah,
kind of looking around. Like, I literally go to the stores like Michael's and wander through the aisles and just see what stuff is available now that I could use to possibly build something. I don't know what I want. I don't have an idea because I don't know what they're gonna have. I don't know what's available. But then I'll see something. I'm like, oh, like my latest thing for the past 3 years has been fabric paint, which is awesome. Fabric paint acts as an adhesive for different things. So, like, if you don't sew and you're like, oh, I want to attach, this emblem to this shirt I have, you can use fabric paint and it will actually attach it to there. And I'm like, well, this is the best thing ever. I don't sew.
I feel that, like, I mean, I feel like the hot glue gun is a cosplayer's best friend. But like for me and my armor builds, I think this comes from my makeup background. I kind of learned how to do makeup quickly. And so because of that, like, I'm impatient even with myself when it comes to crafting. So even if I make an armor build, I haven't spent more than 3 or 4 weeks on one. Granted, it might be 10 hours every day, but 3 or 4 weeks, to build the armor. I don't think about the makeup aspect too much. It's because it's something I'm comfortable with. So I can just come up with the look after the fact. I just need to make sure that I have the body pieces done. And then day of, I'm like, okay, I'm this person. I'll just whip something together really quick, and it ends up turning out pretty good.
So I know, because I've seen you guys collaborate on a couple of cosplays this year, and I've actually kind of been like, what? Because I've been just shut in since COVID started. I go to the grocery store, it's the dentist. Even my doctor appointment was virtual. So, so, like, how are you navigating that with COVID as far as, like, are you trusting that the people you're shooting with, are, isolating and aren't being around other folks? So I did do one shoot. I did one group shoot in November, and the whole time my husband wouldn't kiss me for 2 weeks afterwards because he's like, I don't know if you got some. Like, so, like, how are you guys navigating it when you're working with photographers and even each other or other people you're collaborating with for group stuff? Because I haven't even met with my photographer since we talk online. That's it.
Um, Well, I mean, I guess for real, it is just like a trust factor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty aware of, their quarantining practices and, social distancing, and based off of the information, I trust them. And most of our shoots, especially during this time, is outside.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're not in confined spaces, and when we're not taking pictures, the mask goes back on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've managed to, get a system that works out pretty well.
And you
Right.
don't have like anxiety about it, or you just are like, it is what it is.
Um, I think everyone is more, I think everyone has anxiety. I think I have more anxiety, not for myself, but for people I might be around, like my mom, because,
Mm-hmm.
of course, she's older. But, when I do come back from those shoots, and there haven't been that many, two or three, in the entirety of the whole year, I make sure I do my own like self quarantining when I see her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what about you, Chana?
Pretty much the same. I think trust is a huge factor, and just taking all the necessary precautions when you do, meet with people, or if you, in the event that you do have to do a shoot and stuff, shooting outside, of course, as opposed to shooting indoors. And then I've only shot with probably one or two photographers in the last year, and I've known them both for years, and leaning heavily on like my best friends Anita and Erin, and even Erin had like, she's a biology teacher, so she's like really isolated herself, and we'll check in on each other, but it's been very hard because we live 10 minutes away from each other, but we're not able to see each other as much. And like even now I wear a mask around both my parents, just in case,
All the
and
time?
mm-hmm.
Do you all
Only
live
time,
together?
huh?
Do you live together?
I live with my mom. My father, so of course that my father was hospitalized and had COVID and everything. So my stepmom is in her, rightfully so, kind of insists on wearing a mask around him. Of course, my dad tries to get around it, but I do it out of respect for her. And then I kind of made the logic in my mind, well, if I'm going to wear a mask around my dad, I might as well do the same, extend the same courtesy to my mother, just in case. But like the house, fortunately, we have enough space where I can be like away from her and not, I can let my hair down or take my mask off, so to speak. But yeah, it's given, the past year has given me a lot of anxiety. And the worst thing that I feel like could happen is I get someone else sick or pass it on to someone else. So I've just been taking every necessary precaution, and leaned heavily on the few people who I know I can count on to take it seriously. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So now that, I mean, I know we've kind of all said that we've leaned a little heavier into just doing it for ourselves and not necessarily because there's no conventions. Do you think
Mm-hmm.
that's going to continue to be the case? Like, are you still planning cosplays in the future, like or shoots or anything, or do you feel like it's going to cause you to kind of be on a cosplay hiatus?
I mean, I think actually it's picked up more now than it was when, everything initially started.
Mm-hmm.
Because, at the beginning of 2020, we had the first 2 months and we were able to get MagFest and Katsucon in before, the world shut down. So I got a little bit of the con, feels last year, but, by the time I got to the summer, it was definitely something that made me a little sad and a little depressed because like I said, I enjoy being around other people, laughing and whatnot, and talking about the things we all enjoy, whether that be anime, fantasy, books, or just life stuff. Because like I said before, we don't really get to see each other sometimes unless we're at those conventions. But I
Mm-hmm.
think now that we're here, I think it's probably going to be equal parts both, um, until I guess everybody is vaccinated and we're able to, gather in groups larger than, 15, 20, 30 people and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. Um, But I think the online scene is definitely here to stay because, there are people out here who would love the camaraderie, but maybe have social anxieties or are extremely shy, so they never get the opportunity to speak to their favorite cosplayer, photographer, makeup artist. And through these kinds of events, they're able to do so. So I think it's definitely going to be a combination. Like you said before, this is definitely the most, I think, interactive and like well put together virtual con that I've seen so far. So as long as they're like this and better, I don't see how it won't be present in the
Yeah.
future. But most of us who do go to cons are definitely looking forward for them to come back. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Most
See, I'm
definitely.
older, so I'm actually really feeling like when they come back, I ain't going. Uh,
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, I think it's gonna take so long for it to happen that like my headspace is gonna be different, but I still enjoy dressing up. I just find
Mhm.
different excuses to do it. I make reasons to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like you guys, I've leaned heavier into it. I do it way more, or at least I work on looks, and I've gotten more flexible about what I'm going to do, as
Mhm.
opposed to like I'll start working on original characters instead of trying to be part of, being a Marvel character or being a DC
Mhm.
character or something from another fandom. I'm more
Mhm.
like I'm just going to make something up. Whereas um, if I do, but I do know that if I do one of the traditional characters, I'm going to get more traction online as a result, which I actually hate. Um, I hate that so much. But so as far as when it comes to like, because I know we've all built communities, we've built
Mhm.
cosplay communities and convention communities. Are you maintaining those communities now that we are in this socially distant space?
I would say yes, at least speaking for myself. I would definitely say
Mhm.
yes, because I feel like I'm online more than I would have been otherwise. So
Mhm.
I'm definitely interacting. I would say at least the same amount to maybe more because we're all online now, and that's like what we're doing when we're not cosplaying, we're online. Pretty
Right.
much we do everything online now.
Right.
So I feel like I haven't dropped in communication with my communities. I think the only thing that's really truly taken a hit is, I'm the founder of the Cos Gala, so I
Mhm.
can't hold a gala right now.
Mhm.
And I had every intentions on bringing it back last year, but it hit at the beginning of the year, and my gala is normally towards the end. So I was gonna hold it off. I was like, hey, 2021. And I was like, okay, 2022. We'll see if I'll make it in 2022. I'm not, I definitely won't do it because I want people to be safe. Safety over fun, is what it is. So
Mhm.
hopefully by the beginning of next year, we'll have like an idea
Mhm.
of if we're going to start returning to, physical environments, and especially big ones like Otakon, DragonCon, Katsucon, where on a regular basis, you're shoulder to shoulder anyway. So,
Right.
Yeah.
um,
I
yeah,
mean,
we'll see.
like I don't see it happening because I've been in elevators at conventions where people who were sick as hell and
Yeah.
they're coughing and sneezing and stuff. And you just looking at them like, really?
Yeah, I don't miss the con crud, not at all. That's the one thing I don't miss. um,
That's fair.
yeah,
But then
and
I
as far as
saw. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, you're good. I was just gonna say, as far as the community aspect, I agree with Tranquil, and I agree with Tranquil in the sense that I don't think we've lost community, but just the methodology in which we've had to maintain community has changed. We've had to pretty much rely entirely on online platforms, outside of, people who are in your close bubble, I guess, or people you live with. But aside from that, and then, even with HBCUCon, like it wasn't how I envisioned. I didn't envision our inaugural event to be online. It was, so I had to kind of swallow that pill. And like even with Anita and the Cost Gala, it's like, dang, well, at least I have the option to transition it to that platform and hopefully provide space for organizations like the Cost Gala who can't, do stuff like that. So it's been interesting in that respect. And it feels on one end, it's like you kind of feel like you have to do it in order to adapt and survive, so to speak, especially if you're running a business. But at the same time, it's also kind of like it gives you something, and it gives you something to kind of one help you appreciate like what con life is and what it was before the pandemic. And then when things, finally get back to some sense of normal, we
Oh,
can
this is the new
hopefully take
normal.
that with us.
This is the new
Yeah,
normal.
right.
I'm waiting for somebody to say I have now started wearing more cosplays with masked characters because
Oh yeah.
masking is now really going to be it when you outside. Um,
Yeah.
and then so I know Subsume is doing this, and I saw somebody else who did kind
Mhm.
of a version of it where they had a platform where you were an avatar and could
Yes.
visit people's
Yes.
tables as an avatar. I didn't
Mhm.
participate in it, so I heard that it happened in Animal Crossing, and I heard that like I said, Subsume did it. Um, you participated in that, CC?
I did. It was
What was
pretty cool. I
okay?
mean, if you're like a gamer, you would definitely love it, especially if you're doing one of those like playing The Sims or Animal Crossing. And I was a Sims person, and you can characterize your avatar. It was really interesting. So that was probably, aside from this convention, one of the more interactive ones that I had experienced. It was just the way in which they did it was different. So it's kind of interesting how like the science fiction authors and the writers, did their creative thing versus the gamer, because he literally that's what he does full time.
Right.
So it's like, oh, okay, well, of course,
I mean, that sounds cool. There's no place
Mhm.
for cosplay in that though.
Yeah, I mean, you could cosplay in the sense that if you're speaking on panels and stuff, you could still see people just like I'm looking at you right now. But it was like the way you would go into the virtual spaces is you would walk your character through the space, and then you could go to the panel room there, or you could go to different tables, and they had little tables where you could chat with folks, mock bars where you could get a drink for your avatar and stuff like that. It was really cute.
Okay. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
so if you could envision now, I mean, this is really just now I'm really gonna ask you a question. This is you envisioning something to
Uh-huh.
like still incorporate cosplay in your life, but recognizing we are in this weird social distancing situation. How could you how would you imagine that being? What would you see that looking like?
I mean, I guess like you were stating before, like more characters that have some form of like face covering of some sort, or even making a cosplay that's just large. So you're required a 6 feet bubble, like a wingspan situation or something like that to make sure that people stay out of your way and like do so intentionally. But definitely probably more of a mass thing. And also I think it'll be I think what we should do is kind of compromise in the sense where conventions like drag, huge conventions, um, have a cap, just cap the
Mhm.
amount of people that would be going to these, spaces. If the capacity is 20,000, but you normally are like however many people buy the tickets, okay, capacity is now exactly 20,000. You can't have more than 20,000 people in your building. So now, people have space to be away from each other. I
Mhm.
think that's probably going to be a move, and masks,
Mhm.
more sanitation stations. I'm sure there's going to be a big uptick, and that maybe even more doctors or whatnot on hand, or nurses. I think it's doable. I really think it's doable because I'm not ready for the Wally life. I'm not ready for that. I feel like I can see it and I'm not there yet. I don't want my life to be lived through a screen, so I feel like we got to figure it out.
All right. CC. I mean, personally, I'm thinking we should like I was not going to cosplay necessarily for this panel. And then
Mhm.
when I saw how visual it was, I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I got to put something on. Um,
Mm.
but could you see, like, you know,
Cute.
virtual spaces where people are going to cosplay more often. Just,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you think that's actually going to happen? Because I mean, it's a lot of
for
work.
sure.
I was mad this morning, so
It is. I might have to consolidate, like, you know, if I'm gonna do a panel here, I'm gonna do at least like 2 panels in the same day, and then I might do a podcast recording later that evening so I can get the most out of my look. You know,
because
it
it's a
feels like
lot of
I'm doing
work.
it all day, right?
One plus I will say of this though is that I don't have to make stuff that can withstand a crowd. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
like
that's
if
true.
I make something
Mm,
that's real fragile, it's
yeah,
fine because it's only going to be home. But
fact.
Yeah.
I also don't want to make anything because it's only going to be home.
Right.
Right, right. It's like I don't have to worry about my shoes, but you still got to fix your face and your hair and all that, and it's like for what, you know?
Yeah. But and I'm seeing it in the comments. First off, Cedric, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's see. But Dan says that he's heard of events where they are going to ask for COVID test results and later proof of a vaccine. And I'm like,
What?
first off, the test results is useless. That's useless because
Yeah,
you can get it after your test. Like,
right,
what's that going to solve? But
right.
um, the vaccine stuff, that's interesting. The thing about it is that you still get sick with the vaccine. I'm not even going to. All right.
I think what you can do. I mean, okay, so I think how it works is, or how it should work, would be a really easy system. Is everyone who has been completely vaccinated gets a card. Just like you get a license to prove that you can drive, you should have a license or a card that says I have been vaccinated.
Multi-pass.
And when you go to these like live or in-person um, conventions or spaces or whatnot, you present your card, you get your temperature checked at the door. You know, there should be a lot of, you know, precautions leading up to it. And even when you buy your badge, you know how you read those terms and conditions, or rather you don't, and you just click the check and keep it moving. Well, in the terms and conditions, it, you know, also needs to state, hey, under, you know, considering under these circumstances, you are willingly putting yourself, you know, in this situation. We are not liable for your whatever ends up happening, you know. That way it saves people who are creating spaces, and it also you know, puts the onus on the person who decides to go. Um, and I think if we do it that way, I think it can work out. Um, and like you said, there are going to be a lot of people who just don't want to go, period. And you know, that definitely eliminates the amount of people that are going to be at a con. And that's where all these, you know, virtual spaces will be perfect for those who just don't feel comfortable going to those spaces. But I think as long as we do that, we're good, because it's like the flu. Like people don't think about the flu, but people die from the flu in the thousands every year, like the thousands. They do.
I mean, I'm not
And
denying that. I'm going to
yeah.
stop that because a lot of the issues with COVID are not just how many people die. It's the
Oh, no,
living,
no, no, that's not it. What
it's
I'm saying
living
is
with the
that,
damage
like,
it does.
right. When the flu was new, or right, like when it was first introduced itself, you know, it was huge. It was like a big, you know, of course it was a big thing. Everybody was working to come up with some type of shot or whatnot to fix it. I
Oh,
think with COVID,
they're
with the
warning us that the panel's going to
vaccine.
end soon, but carry on. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. With the vaccine, I think that as long as we put precautions into place and make it known that, hey, you made the options to be here, you chose to be here, that way everyone is safe, you know, at least when it comes to liability.
I have
Right.
mixed feelings about that. I'm not even going to co-sign on that.
No, no, go ahead. That's fine.
Somebody, and I just want to, I'm trying to get to the questions before they kick us out because they will kick us out. Um, one of the people asked, one of the participants asked if they were thinking, well, they said they were thinking about using a Zoom to host a cosplay sewing meeting. Would you consider doing something like that? I don't
Yeah.
sew, so no. But
Yes. I would say yes. I'm not a, expert, I'm not up there with the gods creating gowns and stuff like that, but I do know how to sew basics. So I think that would be a great idea. Like a great idea, even if it's not just sewing, painting or wig making or whatnot, whatever you're good at, I think would be great on a virtual situation, especially considering if it like records and saves somewhere, you can go back and, revisit how to do the thing. So I think that would be great.
Yeah.
And so, the same person, Kinch, actually asked if we're going to be hanging out on the vendor floor at all to kind of just be in cosplay, share the cosplays that we're wearing. I plan to go around the different tables because I'm very fascinated by this event. I'm not sure what the two of you have planned for the rest of the day. But what we can do is tell them where they can reach out to us on our social media, because we all have it. So let's start with you, CC.
Sure. So as for me, CC The Geek on Facebook and Instagram, CC The Greek Geek on Twitter, and HBCU Con on all platforms except for Twitter. It's Con HBCU.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I am Tranquil Ashes on all of them. I am on TikTok as Tranquil Ashes, but I don't got no TikToks. Don't look for no TikToks. That might be a thing that happens later on in life. Since I'm stuck at home, I'll end up having the energy for some videos. But it's there for you to use if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the old people social media. I don't do TikTok. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I didn't even use Snapchat. I think I installed it for a day, and I was like, confusing, and I got rid of it.
It's all for the filters. That's all we get. It's all for
the filters. I couldn't make sense of that platform. I'm like, so I just make a video and it goes away? Do you know how long
right?
Use
That's
Instagram stories? Like stories are the same thing. I'm like, so it just up for 24 hours, huh? Then
right.
Poof. So, and because they are going to kick us out, I want to thank you guys so much for participating in this. I really appreciate it. Thank you for dressing up. I know, CC, you had some in-person real life difficulties that prevented it, but I knew the plan was to do so. We were all going to be in the X-Men, but thank you. This has been awesome. And, I hope this is not the last time that we are able to do something like this, because I enjoyed it. I can't speak for y'all. I hope you did too.
No, I had a blast. Matter of fact, we need to talk after this.
Well, I'll be hanging out on the showroom floor, so I'm probably gonna hit one of those lounge rooms. And so thank you so much. And I guess we're gonna let them close it out. I don't know if we're gonna get a countdown screen, because I'll talk until it shuts down. If I want. I mean, I got plenty of stuff to say all the time.
There it is. Nothing.
Not a moment. Yeah. This was